G'day everyone, welcome back to the workshop. For those that don't know me, my name is Kerry Corney. I am a woodturner based in Brisbane, Australia. This video has been requested, so it is turning the outside of these little bowls. If you want to see any other videos, please let me know in the comments, or if you don't like writing comments, send me a message over on Instagram or via my website through the email process there. In this video, I'll show you the techniques that I that I use for turning these little bowls, and also always the tools that I use. So I hope you enjoy the video. Let's get to work. The species that I love to turn and that works really well for me is camphor laurel. I buy these in slabs. I am making a video at the moment of how I break these slabs down. But at the moment, the slabs that I have acquired are a little bit undulated. So the thickness that I'm chasing is 50 mil, but some of the pieces that I have are also a lot thicker. So on the mill, when they cut them, and this isn't the person's fault that I bought them off, when they chopped them up on the mill from log, they might have had I don't know, there was a bit of a whoop-de-doo in the mill process, but some are 70 mil, some are 50 mil. So you might see that I've highlighted the grain orientation here of the pieces, and when they're finished, I like the way the grain sits on the table and it forms like a smiley face. So that's just, I'm a bit of a creature of habit when it comes to these things, so that's just what I've always done. So just highlighting the grain orientation there, because as you can see, the outside of the tree was here and the pith was in here, so it's just to orientate you as well. So overall, the diameter that I'm looking for is 100 mil. I've got little templates that I mark these up. Like I said, I'll make a video about that. 100 mil in diameter and around that 50 mil thickness is what I'm chasing when they're finished. So there are our two pieces that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you one in explanatory, and then I'll show you one just with a little less commentary, a little less talking on my behalf, Kez. So that's our species that we're using. And then I've got two sets of dividers. This one here is obviously going to be for our tenon. So close the chuck jaws down till they're nearly closed, or you can close them up and then open them back up, and then set your dividers there. So you have to take into account the width or the curve of the blade when they cut these from a billet of steel. This set of dividers here, the one with the tape on it, and they're opened up, that's the sort of finished project width, but I don't really use them much anymore because I've turned, I don't know how many now, 1,000 and so of these little bowls. So I use these just, I don't know, at the end of the day when I'm getting a little bit lax but normally I can just do it by eye and I don't even worry about it. But now the tools that I'm going to use is the GL5 1/2 inch, and it's sharpened to 45 degrees there with that heel removed, and that's our finishing tool for when we want to make really fine, beautiful finishing cuts. You can get away with using one bowl gouge if that's all you have. There's no dramas in that. And this is sort of the workhorse. It's that 3/4 inch bowl gouge, a Thompson tool gouge, and it's sharpened to 50 degrees there. So that's the workhorse. I own two of these. This is my father-in-law's. It's a black wattle handle there. It's extremely hard timber. And that was his Thompson gouge there. And I rarely use that, but if you ever see me picking this tool up, you know that it's got great significance to me because it was my father-in-law's, and he spurred me into wood turning, and I've just fallen in love with this beautiful craft. So that's his gouge. So that's, yes, very special. And I saw him using the Thompson gouge, and I of course needed to get one myself. So we'll get started. I just wanted to refocus the camera. The first thing, and I'll explain more in a future video, whenever I'm picking material or cutting up blanks, one thing I always make sure of is that the timber is free of cracks and splits and any defects. Main reason why I don't turn them, and you probably shouldn't as well, is because anything with big splits and cracks can open up and then send debris across your workshop. The main thing is I see a lot of people turning pieces with a mortise like that, and that's been done on the drill press with the Forstner bit. You've seen me do that hundreds of times. So I drill that with the Forstner bit, and then that way I can fit it over the chuck jaws of the VM 100 chuck. So it just goes over like that, and then I expand the jaws into that mortise. But as you can imagine, if I've got a split in the timber, it will force the timber open. So it's like a banging a wedge it'll into a handle or something like that, or a wedge into a bit of timber. It opens the timber up. That's what those chuck jaws, they will open the timber up, and any weakness, it'll expose that and then send it flying across the workshop. So that's one massive thing that I always look for. Just moving the banjo over now into position. I've got the tool rest running at a 45. I just want to make sure I've got good clearance there. Sorry, it's a little bit squeaky. I want to make sure I've got good clearance between the tool rest and the piece. Just running at a 45 because I want to turn left-handed. So I want to approach this turning left-handed. I first saw Glenn Lucas turn left-handed and I've never looked back. It's just such a great way of turning. You send all the debris away from you. He aims his into a massive skip bin, and then it saves time on cleanup. So anything you can do in your practice that just speeds those little things up, you know, it pays off in dividends later on. So turning left-handed for me has just been a great way, and I've always done it since I've seen him do it. So I've just moved the camera over so you can see what I'm doing, my stance. So I'm naturally duck-footed, so my feet are splayed out. I'm not pigeon-toed, so I'm naturally stand like that. But that also helps me when I'm turning left-handed because I run my left foot parallel to the lathe and my right foot's, my toes aim towards the lathe. And I just find myself standing like that now at the lathe. My right hand grabs behind the tool, thumb behind the tool there like that, fingers over the flute, and my left hand is down low, like you're putting a sword into its scabbard sort of thing. I think it's called a scabbard. And then that's how I turn left-handed, and I sort of pivot and push with my feet. So when I come to the timber, that's how my feet are, and that's how I turn. And we'll crank it up. So I'm running at about 1700 RPMs, turning left-handed, and we'll just slowly take that corner off first. Just gently, just taking it off. Ripping it down to a blank canvas. But one thing is I never want to reach over the tool rest like that. I don't want to do that because you can get caught out. Bring that tool rest over a bit more. On the top there, when I make that little cut at the end, sometimes you can pull the top off. So if this was a finished piece and I was remounting it just to turn the outside or something, if it was a cored out section, I wouldn't push it off the end there like that. So we'll check to see how we're looking there. We've still got a few little flat spots, so we'll just take care of that. Tool rest over. All right, one way to see before, so you don't have to stop and turn the lathe off all the time, I check to see if we're running true, is I just run the back of the bowl gouge on the piece like that with the flute facing me, like so, and then I can hear that it's running nicely. So now I want to move the banjo around to the back. Alrighty, so now I need to clean up the back of the piece. Same thing as before, but I'm going to go knuckles up on the handle and on the tool, and I'm going to drag it across. I'll show you two different cuts on how to do this. First thing is you can do the drag method using that lower wing, like so, or you can switch hands so you're turning left-handed again, and this is how sometimes you might see me do that a lot, and then drag it back across like that. So just cleaning up the back. We want to rip it down to a blank canvas so we can turn it off in between and identify any faults. So if it's got any big splits coming through that you missed when you're processing, just take it off the lathe and put it aside. So now I'm going to use the dividers. I'm going to run the tool rest up so it's at center height to the piece. For those that don't know how to use the dividers, it's quite simple. The left-hand side touches, the right side does not touch. It shadows the line that the left side marks on the timber. So tool rest at center height, and I'll explain why. So we just want to make a little mark. We're bang on. So you want to let that line get shadowed by the right side. So that's our line there. I overemphasized it so you could see. So what that does is when we turn the piece around, because we've got our beautifully formed tenon, when we turn the piece around to turn the inside, and I'll make some really clean cuts when we do this. The reason why we want it perfectly centered and running true to fit inside the chuck is for a couple of reasons. So when we clamp down with the chuck jaws, we don't make big chuck marks in the bottom of the tenon. Secondly is we want it to run perfectly true for the piece. So when it fits in there, it runs really nice and clean. So you don't have any wobbles. So the rim stays really well balanced all the way around, the same thickness. And it's just a much easier turning process as well. So I'll show you how I try and get really nice, clean cuts with our tenon. So knuckles up again, and I just want to work that tenon down. So as I come in there, I'm swinging my right hip there, just holding the tool in the one spot, and then moving my body with the tool. Once I'm there, I've got about a 5mm tenon, and then I draw the tool back to myself. I put him down, and then pick up the GL5, super sharp tool now. And now I don't want to get my head in the way of the camera. I want to come around and I want to line up where my mark is and then drive it in slowly. This is where we need to get it really nice and clean because I'm running a bit low there. I need to adjust my little collar. But when I go to cut this, the cleaner I can get it and start sanding at 240 grit, the better off I am, and I'll explain in why. Fingers over the flute, pinky behind. Line up with the flute closed. Open up the flute, swing my right hip slightly so I make a concave and then drive towards the center. I tend to not rip that off completely because I've found with camphor laurel it can be a little bit temperamental sometimes. So I just take some nice little slow swipes at it, and that's looking nice and clean. I'm just gonna do one more little cut down here. And then I'm going to do it again. There we go. We're okay now. We can take that off. That's not too bad. A little bit of a pimple there. Perfect. So the reason why I want to get the cleanest tenon possible and start sanding that at 240 grit, and it should feel nice and silky when you've done a good cut, because it feels silky, it feels like it's sanded already. So I can start sanding that 240 grit, and the reason why I try and get the cleanest cuts I can all over the piece, especially the tenon, is because if I make a big tool mark on that or something like that, or I leave a bit of a gouge or something, and I have to, or a big tool mark, and I have to sand that out, and I start at a really low grit, say 120 or 80 grit or something, I can sand too much of the tenon, and then it doesn't run right. It doesn't sit back in the chuck correctly, so then it gets a bit of a wobble. This is just from experience, and then you try and turning the inside and you're having some dramas because the tenon's not sized up right, and you might have sanded one side a little bit too much and the other side's still full, so that it doesn't sit right, and it's all just it gets messy. So we want to avoid that at all costs. So yes. Now I'm back over to the side. Now we can start ripping this timber, the corner off, and I'm just going to do that by running my hands, knuckles up on the tool again, like an overgrasp grip on the tool, like that. Tool is running down by my side, and I'm just going to take the corner off first. I'm just going to work my way, but each time I'm reaching back around towards the base. right? Now, there's a little spot in there where that tool couldn't quite reach down near the foot there. So I'll bring the tool rest over a little bit more, back to the GL5, and I want to come around right in around the same thing, knuckles up again on the tool, and I want to get that wing in there, open up the tool just so slightly, and then bring that little bump out, just so we can bring it around to the side. And now I can do a push cut where I start by, my right hand is knuckles up, my left hand is around the flute, like wrapping around the flute under grasp grip with my thumb on the flute. So I'm like this, and then I have the tool away from me, the flute's facing me, I rub the back of the heel of the tool, of the bevel, and then I bring it on, swinging my right hand towards my body, opening the flute slightly, like that. Then I go knuckles up, back around the, this is just how I do it. If you don't feel comfortable doing any of this, just don't do it. But this is how I go about turning bowls. And then I do my housekeeping at the end. So I come around, do a little bit of housekeeping to improve the finish of the piece. And that's just how I can start sanding at 180 grit. And that's a beautiful little bowl, nice and shiny. You can always get a better finish off a push cut than you can a little shear, little pull cut. But that's ready to go. That little beautiful camphor laurel. I just love camphor laurel. It's just something special about it. So put him aside, because now I'm concentrating, and I do it in batches like this. So I'll just turn the outsides and then come back, sand it, and I'll show you how to do some sanding, and then put them all in the chuck, and then do all the insides and sand them all at once, because stopping and starting a 10 horsepower dust extractor is not a good thing. So it draws a lot of power. So now I'm going to turn one, just in sort of my normal, not carried away, just normal speed, but I still want to have a yarn here because it feels like I've got you in the workshop, and yeah, it feels nice. So yet again, camphor oil, grain orientation running, so when it's sitting on the table, I've got that beautiful little smiley face, and they all are going to be the same. And that's just my little thing that I like doing, a bit of a creature of habit thing. So yeah, so we got good clearance from the tool rest. We'll just bring the speed down and just bring it up slowly, just to where it feels good. So bring that speed up. Sorry, I just had to check that camera there, that was in focus. Same again. Just taking that corner down. Being careful I don't overreach. Now obviously if you don't like doing that, you can pull the tool around. Like you can pull it. I just think when I saw Glenn Lucas turn left-handed, I think it was the best thing since sliced bread. So I've never looked back. So that's just how I've always, I learned how to do it, and I've just stuck with it. So it's just such a great way of turning. Oop. Bring that tool rest up, bit higher. Mark our tenon, drop the tool rest. It's probably why I've the little collar there has been adjusted, because I keep slapping it back down. Sorry if my head was in the way there then. Beautiful. Just pull it around. Keep coming back. I keep coming back there and reaching around. that's just the beauty of having multiple gouges. We all love buying tools. My wife loves it as well. When I buy lots of, I rack up a little bill on the credit card, but you can never have enough. Bring it around to where you can get it. We'll start this push cut. Lost it a little bit bumpy there, but that's all right. We'll just do a little bit of housekeeping. There's little hairs there, little strands there. It's just another way of tidying up. I see some people using scrapers, or some people using, you can even use a skew to do some tidying up. It's just whatever you feel comfortable with and whatever is safe. And there we go. Another little beautiful bowl ready to go out to a veteran at Christmas time, or a widow. Pretty cool. Alrighty, so check this video just here if you want to see how I go about breaking down timber slabs and turning them into these little bowls. This is the little subscribe button here if you're interested in joining along the crew, and I will see you and talk to you directly. Cheers, bye.